And I am here on Get Set Up because I really enjoy the interactive learning. I enjoy seeing familiar faces and meeting new people as well. It's just a great platform. Just want to check, is there anybody who is taking a class with us for the first time? No? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So well, I'll just give you a quick plug on Get Set Up. Ideally, we can see you on camera. That would be great. We're learning from each other, but we also really want that community spirit. You can request a recording of this class by just emailing help@getsetup.io, and we'll be glad to send it to you. If you are joining by live stream, welcome. Glad that you're watching. Best way to participate in our classes is to register for one and then join us, and you can ask questions right away. And Get Set Up, lastly, is not paid to promote specific products. So this is not meant to be an endorsement of Photoshop. Just want to give you a walkthrough because many people have expressed interest in it. So what we'll talk about today are just the basic features of Photoshop, just to kind of give you a feel for what you could do with just some basic photo edits. Then we'll talk about saving your photos in a particular format. There are some options there, and we'll talk about that a little bit. If there is anything that you are interested in learning about on this topic, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Okay. All right. Okay. So what is Photoshop? I should have put a question mark there and I forgot, but Photoshop is a photo and graphics editing software created by Adobe, and it's been around since 1988. And it is now considered the industry standard for digital art. You can not only edit photos on it, you can manipulate photos in a variety of ways, and even create graphic art from scratch on it. And it is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. And you get to that by just going to Adobe's website, adobe.com. Their basic photo, they have several different subscription packages. So unlike the old days, you used to be able to go out and spend a few $100s to get the Photoshop software and then download it to your computer from a disk. They stopped doing that. Adobe now has everything on the cloud, so to speak. So you just do everything from their website, get to the apps that way, Photoshop being one of the apps. They have a basic photography package that costs $10 a month, and that includes both Photoshop and Lightroom. It also includes Photoshop for your iPad, and you get 20 gigabytes of cloud storage to save your work. So that's all included in just that basic package. And we'll walk through the options panel. I'm going to open up a Facebook page here of my own. So when I open up the software on my desktop, it's going to look like this. Just kind of gives me this display. And if I wanted to create a whole new image, I would just click here, but I would rather open something, and I don't even need to open it. I can just go into my photo file and drop in any kind of, just a drag and drop. It should go in.
Sorry to interrupt, but could I have the could we have the slide, please, on the options?
Yeah, I'm going to go over those
Thank
two.
You.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, can you have that a little bit longer, like 1 second?
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you, because I don't know anything about process.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to walk through all these. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Okay, actually, when I should correct that. I'm not going to walk through all of these because some of these get really into the weeds and are going to be a little complicated. They'd be more for an advanced class, but I do want to just show you some basic tools you can use to edit a photo. So here I opened up a photo here that did not turn out well. So is there something I could do to rescue it? As you can see here, it's just way too dark. So when you go up to file, that kind of shows you just how to save it and so forth. So, or you can print it straight from here. That's the first setting here. Then you go to edit. And there are just a few things here. Although it seems like this would be the one you'd be using, it's not. The one you're going to want to use for the most part is image. If you look up here at the top of my screen, you'll see where it says image. You open that up. First thing you'll see is mode, which just basically allows you to set some, most of this you won't really have to worry about. It's down here in adjustments where some of the key functions are. So let's go down and look at brightness and contrast. I can brighten it up a little bit. If I want to increase the contrast, I can do that. So that's one option. There is another one, if I go up here, where I can just go to levels. If you see that there, and I often do this, I click on auto, and that at least gives me a good baseline to work with. So I'll go back here and show you. It's adjustments, go down to levels, and then you would click auto. But here you've got other options. Curves is just basically allowing you to work with make tonal adjustments. And it'll be an interface like this that you just move around. So that is a fairly simple approach to it. And you also can play with the exposure. I don't do that all that often, but every now and then, just to brighten up a photo, I might try to brighten it up using the exposure, because obviously that was a photo that was underexposed. Okay. So simple adjustment that fixes a photo. Everybody following that so far, or are there any questions I can answer? Okay. All right. And let me see, I've got I don't have the chat open, I don't believe. Let me check. Okay, stop a share for a minute. See, okay. I am going to go ahead and pop that out. Okay. Okay. So getting back here. Other adjustments that you can try is to go to, you can just, rather than doing those adjustments, you can just do an auto tone, which would change it to this if you want. You do not have to stick with that. I also leave up here, you'll see window. There are a bunch of options here. Some of these get into the advanced mode, but if you ever want to go back, the best thing to do is to make sure that you have history on. And with history, you can just go back to right where you started or bring it back down to where you were before. I'll show you too. Also, you can have an adjustments window show up here, and that will allow you to work with exposure, vibrance, things like that. For some reason, it's just me. I like to work with it up here, but. So adjustments is really key. This is where you're going to want to be doing a lot of work. When you go down to vibrance, you have a few options here. I can just increase this a little bit, and it sharpens the photo a little bit, brings out a lot of the color. And if I want, I can even increase the saturation. So you can see, you can go overboard with that and make it look like really overdone. I don't want to do that, but maybe just a slight adjustment to the color richness, color intensity. Okay. And you can go in and look at the hue and saturation, another place to play with the color intensity, but you can do something like this, but you probably don't want to mess with too much. And beyond that, this gets into some pretty advanced areas, but you at least have a basic fix, an adjustment to a photo that you've taken. Any other questions I can answer so far?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, I think you might be on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I take a lot of group videos or pictures for single photos of concerts where there are at least 50 to 100 members on stage. And my problem has always been, and I'm not quite sure, the white, setting the lighting. And sometimes in a hurry, I don't have time to set that. So oftentimes, I would like to take more of the soloist, but somehow their faces get either too bright so you don't even see the features, or I don't know if there's any remedy to that.
There might be. If sometimes you can do a lot to rescue a photo on Photoshop. So that might involve a couple of things. That might involve just going in here and playing with the exposure a little bit, or the brightness or contrast, or even if you go in here, the curves. If you open up curves and just try to adjust things this way and see what kind of effect you get. And if you open this up, this just gives you different levels of contrast. Say I want to make it more medium, I can play around with that. It's pretty. Some of these have been recent additions to the platform, and they will send you, if you subscribe to this, they will let you know, you'll get a little alert on your desktop through your Creative Cloud account that there's an update.
And where do we subscribe to? Is Photoshop?
Yeah, you go to adobe.com and look at what they offer in terms of, they have several different options you have that you can get. And one of them is just a basic photo package, and
Huh?
that would just be $10 a month.
Oh, it's per month.
Yeah.
I thought years ago, I know my late husband did a lot, and he was very good at it. Um, um, I, I thought he installed Photoshop.
Yeah, that's Sylvia, you must have missed the first part of the class, but yeah, Adobe did away with that whole business model, and now it's all on their website. So you would get it through there and pay a monthly subscription.
Now, if I already have it in the computer, it's still usable.
Yes,
Okay, but not as up to date.
right, exactly.
But I was wondering how, if it's too bright so that the features, the facial features are not there, how would Photoshop put features there? I mean, no
Okay,
matter
let
how
me
content.
let me open up another example.
That's what I was going to ask, if you could do a face for
Yeah.
us. Is that,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let me open up a new file. Okay. So here's a photo that I took that really, this was a photo shoot I did, and I underexposed this one. There's a lot of shade in this little garden area, and I got some others that did turn out well, but I just picked this one because this was one I botched. So if I go in here, here the face is too dark. So again, I can go in here and I can just, one option is to play with the exposure and brighten it up that way. Or I could just go in and play with the levels. So, or the, yeah, levels, I could just say auto here. That lightens it up a little more. And I can also go to curves and see what kind of adjustments I can make there. And there it gets a little better. Her face is now much more, much brighter and in view and so forth. So that's one way to adjust it. Let me see what would happen if I overexpose this. Say you shot it, whoops, that's way too much. Say I shot it like this. I overexposed it pretty badly. And I wanted to switch that. Here's where you could lower the exposure setting, or do something like, you go to gamma correction, sometimes that helps, although not here. And offset sometimes helps, but not in this case. So this one, you'd probably just want to definitely go with adjusting the exposure if you have something overexposed. And then from there, you can do things like play with the brightness or vibrance, I mean, and a little bit of the saturation. Whatever adjustments you want to make. At this point, you become the artist, and then you can adjust the photo the way you'd like it. Okay, one other thing that you can do with a photo, let me open up another one. Okay. say that you want to, where is it? The photo I wanted to use for this. Okay, I'll take this one. Okay, say you take a photo like this and you want to put a little photo filter on it. So a photo filter is just an adjustment you can make that this would be the equivalent of maybe having some kind of filter over a lens when you were taking the picture. So in this case, it's a warming filter, and it just gives a little warmer of a look to the photo. And if I click on cooling filter, it makes it kind of bluer, so to speak. And they have several of these down here that you can just try. And sometimes I'll experiment with these to see if it gives a look that I want. Okay.
It's more difficult when you have multiple subjects because, say, for instance, the boy's face is much brighter than the
Mhm.
other two. Can you individually adjust each face?
So there are a few tricks that you can do. One of them might be with the curves because you have a little more control over where things are lighter, and sometimes if you play around here, it might help. The other thing that is available here is if you down here at the bottom is where you open up a whole other set of tools. Let me go back here. I'm going to click right here and keep my finger on my cursor or on my mouse pad here for just a second. And I get all these tools available. I'm going to send you after class a slide of the key tools here that I'm going to be talking about. But first, before I do that, let me adjust this so it's a little more visible to you when I do make this adjustment. So I am going to darken this a little bit, or maybe play with this exposure instead. Okay. So say we've got a darker photo. That's not working either. Well, let's say we just want to lighten up the face in there. Probably the contrast would. Okay. So if we go up here and we see that her face is kind of shadowy, I can go down here to my toolbox, press on that, open it up, and I can go to the dodge tool. I've got that way big. Right up here, you have some dodge tool comes in the form of a brush. And Photoshop comes with some brushes. You want to go up here and just, you'll usually see it up here. You'll have brushes open when you hit that dodge tool. Just adjust the size you want to use and set the level. You can experiment with this, but I'm going to just go over this a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. That's too much.
Yeah, cheeks.
Yeah, but if I maybe just narrow in on her eyes and up here, it brings out her eyes a little bit more. I'm just fumbling here, so I would probably spend a little bit of time doing that, but it would at least make her eyes a little more visible.
Oh,
So same here, I can lighten this up. There is also, if you wanted to go the opposite route, say darken this face down here,
that might be easier.
you could go to your burn tool. This always doesn't necessarily work for faces, but I could go down here and you can see here, I've got it turned on a little too much. but the burn tool will darken places that you need to have darkened a little bit. So maybe I just want to have his little more outline in his face or something like that. That's not really ideal what I did just there, but just want to give you the idea of what that can do. Where that really comes in handy, that let me close these out. Okay, where that really comes in handy is with landscapes. And this is something that Ansel Adams used to do.
Oh,
As I mean, this was his shtick, actually,
Yes,
with
sir.
all those black and white photos, that he did in Yosemite National Park. And he would just, this was in the dark room, but he would actually dodge and burn his photos so that there was sharper contrast. Shadows might get darker. But say I wanted to bring these out a little bit more, maybe just these trees in the corner. I want to have them not be just silhouetted, but a little brighter. I'd go down here and I would go to my dodge tool and maybe go over them a little bit to see if I can lighten those up. Not having much luck here. Let me try a little. Still not doing it. So sometimes you may need to, you have 3 options here: highlights, mid-tone, and shadow. This is very shadowed. Maybe I want to bring these out. So I go over. I think these are just too dark. I can't really rescue them. But if you look down here, I can at least brighten these up a little bit. If you wanted to bring the green out there. Maybe I want to brighten up the dock a little bit. Or maybe I just want to brighten up the water. I could just go over all of this.
Ansel Adams' forte was black and white, and I
Right.
used to wonder. So it could also be used on black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's easier. It's a matter of just darkening and
Yes.
brightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And adding contrast, because we were in Yosemite and all those places that he photographed, and only by accident would I get a very, very nice picture, not
Yeah.
even comparable to it.
Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. So let me close that one out. And any questions on dodging and burning? Anything you'd like me to show again on that? No? Okay.
There is just too much to learn, and even experimenting with. I saw my husband doing, and you really have to know, well, at least have some idea of what dodge means and what burn will do. Or
Right, right. Yeah. And, I'm just scratching the surface with Photoshop. I mentioned that I've been using it for a dozen years, and I still am learning new stuff on it every time I use it. And a lot of times I have to do tutorials online for myself if there's something I do want to do to a photo and I can't figure out. And so, yeah, it is like getting into a lunar ship or a spaceship or something like that and being expected to operate it right off the bat. It does take time. I just want to give you a little introduction to what it can do. And if you haven't bought the software or you're thinking about it, this kind of gives you an idea of just the basic capabilities, and there is so much more you can do with it.
Scott,
Yes.
where can you find the tutorials?
I think some of them may be on the Adobe site.
Okay,
I have also just gone to YouTube and just typed in Photoshop and maybe one function or edit that I want to do, and just type that in as a keyword and it shows up. And
Thank you.
usually there are several of them.
Thank you.
You know, here's another example of a photo that didn't really turn out all that great. I took this in Iceland, but here's one where if I play with the levels, that doesn't help. That makes it worse. This is not what I wanted to do to it. So sometimes I don't get what I need, but I can just go and play with the brightness a little bit, bring out.
Oh, yeah. That
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, so that'll improve it.
I never saw such green in Iceland. It was mostly gray because of the volcanic.
Yeah,
This one is unusual.
yeah, yeah. So one thing that I do want to point out about photos when you are wanting to do something beyond just keep them on your computer, if you want to print them or something like that, is to go and look at the image size. And what you'll find here, this will show me the dimensions of my photo. This is a pretty big photo. And the areas you really want to look at, this is a 17 by 11 in terms of its orientation. And that's a decent size. I could blow this up pretty big. It's 350 pixels per inch, PPI. And that's good for print. If you've got a photo that's 350, you can get it printed and get it printed at a pretty large size and not lose any quality in terms of the resolution or anything like that. It would not be real grainy or anything. Now, say you call up something, let me find another one that, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Oh, let's see. This one I took with my iPhone. And that is probably going to be a smaller size. Okay, it's 240 pixels per inch or PPI. That's still not too bad. And that's with an iPhone. A lot of times you may find that you've got a picture that either was sent to you and you're trying to edit or something like that, that is going to be at 72. That seems to be a big default. A lot of times if you snap a picture with an iPhone or something, it's going to end up like that. 72 PPI will be okay to display on a computer screen or something like that. You can probably even get by getting a small print of it, like at CVS or something like that. Get it at 5x7 or 6x4 print, something like that. But here is, I'll tell you, when I worked in the publishing arena for a magazine, when we were collecting photos, the graphic designers would always tell us, we'd send them a picture and they say, I can't use this. It has to be 300 PPI.
Right. Even the newspapers, when you send them a photo, or this was years ago, to print with a little public relations release, they would want a like an 8x11. I was thinking, why would they want that when they actually publish it? The picture is only like less than 1 inch. And
yeah.
Well,
So that is why. I mean, they have to have it at a certain resolution for it to produce well. And for your own purposes, not all of us are going to be publishing photos in magazines or anything like that. But if you take a photo or you've got a photo and you're editing it and you want to really enlarge it, maybe to say, a wall art or something like that. You want to enlarge it to a size where you could frame it and hang it on a wall. That's where you might want to be with those higher resolutions, like the 240 to 300 PPI. is going to look much better. If this had been 72 PPI and I decided I wanted to get like a 20, I'm trying to think of all the different sizes, like a poster size picture of this to put on my wall, it would not produce really well if it was at 72 PPI.
Scott, can you change the PPI of a picture? Can you change it once it's done, or?
You can sometimes, it's a stretch to take it from 72 to 300. But I could easily take this, and in fact, I've done this before. I can take the image size and I could just type in 300 here. And I don't really think I'm losing any quality by doing that. So when it's that close of a difference, not a big deal. At 72, I probably would still get something would be compromised here in terms of the resolution. Things might be a little blurrier or something like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do pixels replace what dots are? Like years ago,
Yeah.
so now there are no more dots because it used to be in a dark room and you watch for the dots to
Right.
get bigger. Okay,
Yeah, it's kind of the same concept. It's pixels are, a pixel is basically a point of light, I guess you'd say, on a digital screen. And so it is what exactly it says it is. It's 300 pixels in an inch here on this kind of resolution, or in this case, well, yeah, I just changed it to 300. So with that is apparently the same thing you would have with the little dots you'd see with print back in the newspaper days and magazines and things like that.
Scott,
Yes.
do you know what the PPI is on most iPhones?
I think right now, this one I took came out at 240. So
Okay.
that's not bad. iPhones take pictures at like 12 megapixels, I think, or something. So 240 is probably really the upper end of what you're going to be able to get, but that's a pretty decent picture for,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, would you know what the latest Galaxy, what do they call this? Galaxy S. They have the S21 now, but I have the S20 Plus, five something.
Yeah, I don't know much detail about the Galaxy. I do know that their phones, Samsung's phones, tend to take pictures at a pretty high resolution, though, higher than the iPhone, I believe.
This one has five. I'm told that it's that's why my son gave me this, but I don't know that much. It's a lot better than my S7. So I see like little 5 dots in the back, and that's probably 5 cameras. But I don't know that in terms of pixels.
Yeah, that you'd probably need to go into the settings of your phone somehow, and I'm not really able to direct you to that since I don't I'm an iPhone user, so I don't know that much about the Galaxy, but I do know my wife has a Galaxy that's about 12, or not 12, probably about 8 years old, and it takes pictures at about 20 megapixels. So there's a little difference there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do want to walk through saving a photo. If you're going to save it on your computer, or if you're going to save it to do something with it later. So I can go here and put save as, and I get this interface coming up, and I say, I'm going to save this on my computer. And I've got a name for it. Maybe I just want to put a name attached to it instead of just the number. And then I come down here and I've got some options in terms of the format that I'm going to save it in. The JPEG is what most people save photos for digital purposes. Or GIF, you used to see that a lot too. And I think some people still save them in that, but those are the two kind of big standards in terms of digital imagery. If you save it in Photoshop, it's just going to be a Photoshop document that's still editable in that platform, but you can't do much else with it. And if you go down here, PNG sometimes is popular too. You can save it in PNG format. And then TIFF, a lot of times I'll save files in TIFF if I know I'm going to print them. And when I was working in the magazine business, all of the photos we got, we converted to TIFF before we sent it out to be printed. So those are some of the formats. It'll probably default to JPEG because typically if you're taking a photo with your smartphone or with a digital camera, that's the format it's going to take it in. Higher end cameras, you might shoot it in RAW format, and this gets into a lot of camera mechanics and things like that. But for the most part, for simple everyday photography, things are going to be in JPEG format.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
there's a question. I'm new to genealogy, and I just have a question where I would only occasionally have old photographs I want to retain. Is there any other program that is not as complex as this that I could use?
Yeah, I think Google has a free product now. The other thing, Michael, you can do is if you use any application like Google Photos or Amazon Photos, where you can have your photos backed up into a cloud, they have some pretty simple editing functions there that you can use. And I've edited pictures on those. Flickr is a website that allows you to store photos there, and they have some pretty simple editing tools on there. So that feels more like you're just getting behind the wheel of a car rather than stepping into a 747 and being expected to operate it. So yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's one more I'll refer you to as well. And the app is free. You can get it, although they do have a premium account, and it's called Fotor, F-O-T-O-R. And I've used that one quite a bit, and it's really good. And it's a lot easier to work your way through. Okay. Other questions I can answer?
Could I still use the old Photoshop? That's at least 10 years old.
Yeah, there probably will not be the same number of functions on it that you would get with the latest version, but it would still be usable. Yeah. So if you're doing just some of those simple adjustments that I just did, what you've got is fine. Most of the new features that have been added to it, that gets into, those are the hardcore Photoshop users that would probably want that latest version. But for simple photo editing, just adjustments, say cropping a photo, I didn't go over that, but if you wanted to crop a photo, let me go back to sharing my screen.
Oh, cropping is simple, but it's already, that old one is already very, too much for me. I don't think I need all these new ones.
Yeah, but all of these here are pretty much, I would imagine they're all these at the side here are on your the Photoshop program that you have. And those are pretty basic. So if you don't want to go any farther than that, you're in good shape with what you've got.
Scott,
Mhm.
I bought recently a new version, the 2021 version of Photoshop, and there is something new that I found useful. And sometimes when you take a picture, people close their eyes.
Yeah,
So they now have a feature where you can open the eyes, which I think is very useful.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's great to know.
yeah. Bruce, did you happen to check out also, I think there's a feature on there that can age people?
I'm not sure, possibly yeah, I don't know if I saw that. Okay.
Yeah, I played around a little bit with that, and you can age people.
I don't
and
know
think,
if I want to know that one.
yeah, I know, but I think you can. What's the word I want to use? You
Oh,
can.
make you reverse it.
Yeah,
Reverse it.
you can make yourself look younger,
Oh,
There,
and
there must
that's getting into some pretty pretty hardcore editing on there that I had to fumble around with to figure out. It also, I think, can even change an expression on a face. So it could turn a frown into a smile or vice versa. So that gets pretty scary, but
the police department must have this, because when they publish lost and found, like when they publish pictures of lost and found children, they would age it to say, well, they were lost at about 5, 6 years old, and they could make them look like what they will be about 20
Right.
something.
Right.
And I always wonder how they did that.
right. Yeah. That's a lot of the probably a lot of the technology that was developed by the Defense Department has worked its way over time into the law enforcement and then into tools like this.
For
You'll
us,
find that there's a lot of facial recognition technology that is now built into Google and Amazon for sorting your photos, things like that. So
for astro photography, do you know if this is used?
for what kind of photography?
Taking pictures of the moon or what's it, like sun eclipse.
If is Photoshop used for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine some people are using it to do some editing. Yeah, yeah. A lot of the photos that you'll see on places like Getty Images or something like that, and they're just really vivid, and you can pretty much assume that they did some editing to those photos before they posted them online, because sometimes you don't get greenery that bright in real life. It's just sort of beefing up the photo a little bit to really
Used to
make
be
it
filters.
a picture.
So I don't know if they still use.
And filters, sometimes they use those too. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I thought I've always identified Photoshop with Kim Kardashian photos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, those kind of photos where, the slimming and trimming, or
Yeah.
you make the rear a lot bigger than, or that kind of thing. Or I noticed when someone points out that they forgot to remove an arm or something, so there's like an extra arm or extra leg. That's what I thought they were using.
Yeah,
Photoshop.
Oh, they
There-
do that at the Photoshop in New York. They have that photo show. They have the annual photo shows, and they have all the professional photographers there. And I remember one where I went in. He ran a portrait shop, and he would show us actual picture that he took of a model, and then how he did it. So all the glamorous shots, they all got.
yeah,
Because I used to wonder, how do they look so perfect?
yeah. A lot of airbrushing and things like that. Yeah. And what interestingly, a lot of mobile apps, things that you can download to a smartphone now and use. In fact, I teach a class on that some of you may have been in, on photo apps. And a lot of them can do a lot of these things, and they're a lot easier to use than trying to train yourself on Photoshop. You can find all kinds of apps that can do those adjustments to a face, you know, get out blemishes and airbrush them and things like that. There are dozens of those on the App Store that you can use right on your mobile phone, and also a lot that you can download from for a desktop too. And if you're using Apple, I think they have their own version of kind of a competitor to Photoshop. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's Affinity or something like that. I can't remember for sure, but I think it's a considerably, it's a one-time purchase, and I think it's considerably less expensive. So if you're using a Mac, you might try that too.
I'll ask about it. I have our Macs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, well, we're right getting close to the end of the hour. I just want to go through a little
The joys of travel are wherever your journey takes you. Peaceful
wrap up
parks,
here. So let me share my
great
screen.
cities, across the sea,
So, in summary,
Or
you
just
can
across
use
town.
Photoshop to make
even
just
when
some
we can't
basic
travel
edits like
physically, we can venture
contrast,
out in
brightness,
spirit.
saturation, things like that.
Travel
And
is a
there are simple
mindset.
tools for cropping the photo, dodging
Travelers
and burning,
follow their
and sharpening,
dreams.
things like that. You just
And
look in
mine
that toolbox
Generally take me
that I
to
showed
Europe.
you, and it can help fix specific areas within a photo even. And you can save a photo in PSD format, which is the Photoshop format, if you want to come back to it later and do some more adjustments. When you're done with it, you can save it as a JPEG, a GIF, a PNG, or a TIFF. Those are probably the most ideal formats to save it in, and you're good to go. Okay. So I'd love to, if you enjoyed this class, please share the experience, and you can, whether you're sharing it on Facebook or Twitter, you can, or Instagram for that matter, you can just give us a shout out. Our hashtag is GetSetUp, and our Facebook page is @GetSetUp. I want to note that we've got some related artistic classes coming up. We have one on how to digitize analog home videos, one on an introduction to art journaling, and then a class on basic drawing, nature inspired. And my next classes, I have one coming up at 3 Eastern today, tips on better writing. I spent years as a journalist, so I thought I'd create a class that just talked about some basics on really good sentence structure and paragraphs and so forth. I also have one tomorrow on creating cards and invitations with Canva. And Canva is an online service. It's sort of like a do-it-yourself graphic design site where you can create all kinds of things, from cards to photo books to marketing material, all kinds of stuff. So I will be sending out some class notes to you afterward with a few takeaways. I'll be pointing out some of those tools that I demonstrated just to give you an idea how to, what icons to look for if you do end up playing around with this on Photoshop. You'll also get some other class suggestions and a link to the schedule, and also a place to give some feedback. So if you notice here, you can always not only sign up for a class, but once you do, you can tell friends about it. If you want somebody, this is a relatively new addition to our website. But if you want to maybe tell a friend, hey, you might want to take this class with me, you can share it on Facebook or WhatsApp, or just email it to them. And you can always just copy the link and paste it into a email as well. And you'll also have a link to our feedback form. This is a new class, so we would really love to know what you think about it, whether it worked, whether it didn't work. It'd be really helpful to us to make sure we're delivering a good experience for you. You can rate the class and rate the guide, in this case me, on a 5-star scale, which you can raise to 5 stars or lower to 2 stars, whatever your sentiments are. And also any comments that you can add to help maybe offer us some suggestions on this class, what we might do to improve it. That would be really helpful. And lastly, down here, you can drop in a suggestion for any other type of class you'd like to see us offer. We're constantly looking for new classes to develop, and many that we develop are based on suggestions we've received from learners in the community. So fire away with those suggestions. And you can also drop us a suggestion just by emailing us at help@getsetup.io. And you can also, in addition to just spreading the word to people you know about Get Set Up, if you think they might benefit from some of our classes, you are also invited to host an interest group if you would like, or a social group or something like that. Just let us know. You can also email help@getsetup.io this way to let us know you'd be interested in hosting, say, a social hour on some hobby you're doing or some topic you'd like to discuss or something like that. And again, if you would like a recording of this session, you can email help@getsetup.io. Just be sure to identify the name of the class and the date you took it, so we're sure to send you the right one.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much. It
your
was very
time.
interesting.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. And thank you for explaining all of the details at the end on all the different, programs and how to use the app, because I found it helpful. I was having a little struggle a couple times. So thank you so much. I look forward to, I think I'm already scheduled for one of your afternoon classes. So.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I'll see you again.
Look to see you again. All
All
right.
righty. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Small world. I just noticed. I read somewhere from Bowling Green. I took my graduate journalism class in Ohio too. Ohio
really?
University in Athens. Yep. That was years ago.
In Athens at Ohio University?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's my father's alma mater.
Right. It's just a beautiful small town.
Yeah.
And then I was going to move on to the University of Michigan, because actually I went to Ohio because my fellowship at Michigan was extended to the other one, so anyway, to make it, it's great to see a small world.
Yeah.
I didn't notice. Yeah. That's where I had my second major. That was my journalism class. Actually, I majored in mass communications.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Okay. Thank you, Sylvia. Okay. Everybody have a good one. Take care.
Have a good day.
All righty. Bye-bye.